Final hour overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Monday nighter tonight. Cowboys, Texans. Timo and Wilson on the clock. They picked Houston, laying 7.5.
You would have picked the same thing.
Yeah, I think you can't bet on the Cowboys right now. You can't. And I think you're betting on C.J. Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, that team. Pretty good team, pretty talented. Nico Collins is back. Getting it together here in Houston. Like they're gonna go on a bit of a run. They've lost a couple of games here. They haven't played overly well. They got to get their stuff together. They got to get that offensive line working. And the Cowboys are a mess. So yeah, I think that's a sound pick. And
I wonder if, like in Dallas, the overdrive of Dallas.
Oh, they'd be going.
Are they just
crazy
chewing on Jones every day? Or are they chewing on
all of them? I think now Dak had the surgery, so he's done. So now Dak's been put aside, but he wasn't playing great prior. I think Jones, McCarthy, they're going nuts. I mean, they're
Who's the
obviously
worst team in the NHL?
In the NHL
NFL.
or the NFL?
NHL.
Chicago.
That's
San
that would
Jose.
be the equivalent. That would be
Sorry,
the equivalent. The Dallas Cowboys would be the equivalent of the Leafs, like having 2 wins right now.
Yeah. Well, we did it, man. We were doing it when the Leafs were the worst team in the league. We were talking about them, and the thing is, the Leafs had a plan. That's where
it was a dignified tank.
And that was their plan. It's the same thing with the Raptors. Like, no one's flying off the handle here with the Raptors. You're disappointed for them. They've had some chances to close. They've thrown away some games late. They've lost in overtime to some good teams. But they're rebuilding.
Right.
Where the Cowboys were in the playoffs a year ago, spent all that money on Dak and CeeDee Lamb, and were expected to go to the playoffs again this year, and it's been an unmitigated disaster for them.
Right.
Where more so than any other team I can think of, outside of maybe the 76ers. Like, Philly was supposed to be a really good team this year. They have, I believe, still only have 2 wins. Like, that's kind of shocking what's going on with them. Denver's not off to a great start. A couple teams in the NBA that have some talent, that have higher hopes, that are not off to a great start.
Thing is, though, in the NFL, you're halfway through the season now.
No, you've missed your opportunity.
You can't.
There's no coming back now.
Where, in the NBA, it's kind of just started. The NHL just started. You're not even a quarter way into the season for the most part.
Well, an expanded playoffs in the NBA allows you to sneak into the 10th seed.
Yeah, you back door.
Yeah, you got to beat 4 teams or 5 teams to get in. If you're Philly, you're probably thinking, if we get to like 32 wins, we're in the playoffs.
I think the NHL's just scared to do expanded playoffs in their league because there's some good teams that might knock off top tier teams.
I think there would be a concern.
That's the whole
about
idea of it.
I know, but it's that's what you're looking to do. Like, what could realistically the NHL go to? 20 teams?
Well, of course. I mean,
instead of
there's
16,
32. Yeah, if you added
20.
2 on each conference.
Right.
If you did what the NBA did, where it's 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9.
Right.
And you have a little, one off, and then
Best of 3.
Best of 3 or whatever. That would be an incredible feeder.
Why wouldn't you look at that? Because that's a money-making venture
Bettman
right
won't
there.
do it. Yeah, Bettman just, I don't know.
That's
He
one of
won't
those
do it.
things where he just looks at it and says, no way.
Yeah, he just has no interest. He will not do it. They won't contemplate changing
I would love that because
anything.
what it does is adds money. The owners should be up for it. If you're a team that's in that little window there, that whatever that is, 16 to 20, that's playoff gate. That's that's everything. That's going to add to your hockey-related revenue.
Yeah, you get more playoff games. You charge more for TV rights. You charge more for tickets to those games.
And you are going to get the NHL wants theater. They want parity. They want theater. We could make a case for 20 teams instead of 16. There's always a decent team that has an off season that either misses the playoffs or is right there.
Well, when there were 21 teams in the league, 16 were making the playoffs.
I know.
Like,
that's
back
crazy.
in the day, yeah, there'd be times like the Leafs would get into the playoffs and they had like 28 wins.
Yeah, like under 500.
And they'd sneak
But that's
in.
good for a market like this
Yes.
because you're watching playoff games and you're getting excited about it every April.
But now there's 32 teams. I mean, there's a lot of teams,
I think
and
there
they
should
have
be
not
expanded.
They haven't moved off that.
Yeah.
I've come around on it. Like I've never felt like it was necessary. But usually my argument is, it's not like I'm not going to watch or be excited for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, is it necessary? Maybe not. But if it happens, I'm not going to not tune in. I'll be excited for it.
Yeah.
Baseball did it. Baseball, that was the big change. Baseball was so set in their ways for decades. Like, this is how we operate. And you
Those
fight
playing
for the
playoff
pennant.
games are awesome.
But
And they're
wouldn't you-
outstanding
They
theater.
are, but
And the
wouldn't
NBA
you-
has supplied great theater the last
But if
couple
you
of years.
are the NHL, wouldn't you be talking to both those leagues and say, what are the economics of this strictly?
Well, there can't be a downside to it. I can't imagine. You're
Right.
adding games and adding revenue. What's the downside? Unless the players put up a
Maybe
fight.
it's the players are pissed, more games added to the schedule, whatever, wear and tear. The PA's got to sign off it.
Right.
But I'd take it every day of the week.
The NFL keeps adding games. They're
Yeah.
up to 17. They're going to be up to 18 by the end of the decade, I'll bet.
Yeah.
They keep
agree.
adding games. Here's Chris Johnston, our TSN hockey analyst and insider, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. What is your read on that, CJ? Why is there no appetite in the NHL for expanded playoffs, more wild cards? You look at the NBA Cup, they're trying something different over there, and the NHL seems as if they're not really interested in any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the first reason against it is Gary Bettman just doesn't seem to at all want to entertain it. You know, he maintains that the Stanley Cup playoffs are the best playoffs in all the sports, doesn't see a need to change something that's already working. You know, another thing I've heard, which, you know, I don't think is the main factor, is that the TV partners haven't really, I guess, communicated to the league a desire to have something like this happen. And, you know, if you're going to do it, obviously you got to do it with the idea of making money. And, you know, in the NHL, making money partly is selling more tickets. So obviously those are more games. You're going to sell more tickets. But, you know, I think an aspect would be having the TV side of it work. And so, you know, I'm of the view that we're going to see this in time in some way, shape, or form. I just think, you know, it's working in the other sports. It probably makes too much sense. But I don't sense that there's any real urgency or any push with the current head of the league to make this happen. And so, you know, maybe after this next round of CBA negotiations, it's something that gets discussed and they're adding games or they're adding ways to you know, maximize what they're doing. But, you know, I just feel it's in every other sport now. So, I mean, it only stands to reason they'll come to the NHL eventually.
Yeah, you would think so, for sure. Leafs back in action on Wednesday. Auston Matthews has now not skated in a week, and Craig Berube came out today and said he's not playing Wednesday. I believe he said he's not playing this week. I don't know if you're holding him to that on Saturday night when they play, but this has gone from day to day to now week to week, and now he's not even skating.
And CJ, I think you said on Friday when we talked to you that things were turning to the positive. So how did we get here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have full clarity there, honestly. I mean, clearly with Matthews, you know, it hasn't progressed as fast as they would like or he would hope. And, you know, I do know that the Leafs are not feeling maybe any urgency in this situation, just given how spread out the schedule is and you know, what he means to the team. And they've been winning without him. I mean, who knows? You hate to say it would be different if they had lost some of these games instead of going 5-1 in the 6 they played without him. But, you know, I do think that reality might set in there and they've, you know, elected to be, you know, ultra cautious here. But I still, you know, it's tough to give you exactly what's going on because, you know, we're limited in the information we have, except to say that, you know, obviously this has gone on longer. I think it's fair to say than anyone would have imagined.
Yeah.
You know, day to day stretching into 3 weeks is, you know, not how I would have guessed this would have played out. You know, if we had, you know, talked, you know, back when this injury first happened. And so, you know, I do think there are some minor alarm bells, but, you know, there doesn't seem to be anyone close to it that I'm in touch with freaking out too much just yet. But, you know, I do think this. I'll put it this way. It makes sense to me, given that the team is winning and they have this time off, to make sure he gets as close to 100% as they can get. I mean, why would you rush him into any of these games, you know, against Vegas on Wednesday, Utah's here Sunday? I mean, why push it? But, you know, the longer he goes and Matthews isn't skating, I mean, the questions are going to persist, and there's just not a lot of clarity on exactly what he's dealing with.
Well, that's the thing that sticks out to me. I can totally understand that reasoning. We're not going to rush him, but he's skating. He's not even skating. Like that to me, he went for a skate last week, and then they shut him down. That sets off alarm bells for me, CJ. Like, what are we dealing with here? Is it a muscular thing? Is surgery on the table? Is it something else? Is it? And now the speculation's going to run wild, and the Leafs, nothing they can say because they don't offer up any information. So obviously people are going to speculate on what's going on with this guy.
And you're asking the right questions. I wish I had better
No,
answers
I understand
for you.
that. I understand that. But I guess what I'm saying is, for me, I've reached a point, and I hope this isn't the case, but Feels like almost anything's on the table for him. Like anything, I don't know when he's going to play. I don't know what he's dealing with. I don't know how bad it is because you can't take the Leafs at face value because they've been saying, it's nothing day to day for 3 weeks. Nothing day to day is not 3 weeks and still not skating. Like that's more of a serious issue than they originally let on. And maybe something changed. Maybe something got agitated. I don't know, but this has taken a different turn than what the Leafs were selling 3 weeks ago.
Fair. And my expectation initially was this was a rest type of injury, right? This wasn't a broken bone. This was, take some time off the ice, let whatever's flaring up in the body calm down. Obviously, you're getting treatment behind the scenes, but then you'd see a normal ramp up. And it was playing out that way. I mean, I think he maybe missed 4 or 5 days off the ice before he skated on the Saturday morning before the game against, I guess it was the Canadiens game. My understanding is he skated as well on Sunday, and then we haven't seen, and I'm not aware of him skating since then. And so that's now 8 days ago, 8 or 9, depending how you want to count those days. So, yeah, the look isn't great, but I do think with the time off, maybe they can. I mean, look, it's a hard thing. I mean, the NFL, there's so much more open about what injuries are. In this case, there's just not enough clarity, and I don't want to be out here guessing too much or saying anything that crosses the line. It has dragged on longer than I ever would have guessed.
What about Calle Jarnkrok? That just came. Did that come out of left field for you, or was it just kind of expected, given that he kind of hadn't been around?
Yeah, I mean, he's been around a little bit. In fact, I saw him after the game in the hallway on Saturday night and said a quick hello to him, although he didn't tell me he was going in for surgery today. But, I think that he had a setback. I mean, he was dealing with an issue in camp. He had started to push it, and then, they did mention at some point along the way that he had a setback, and obviously he's had to have sports hernia surgery now. And so the question for him is, I mean, how long is that? I mean, they're calling it month to month, probably a couple months, and then he hasn't even played a game this season. So, Calle's last game for the Leafs was in the playoffs against Boston. And so, I don't know what can now be expected from him other than to say, you hope his rehab goes well after that surgery and he's back at some point this year. But, I don't think we can say when that'll be and what it's going to look like when it happens.
DJ Hayes was talking about the chatter with Mitch Marner, how polarizing it is after every point. It seems like people scream, he better not sign a new contract till after the playoffs, or other people say, you better sign him now. You must get peppered with that after every Marner performance, people coming up to you asking what the hell's going on with this guy.
Yeah, it's amazing when I ride the TTC how many negotiation experts there are out there that have a view one way or the other about how this should play out. I mean, the way I look at it is this when it comes to his contract. Each side here has something the other can't really find somewhere else. I mean, Mitch Marner is, whatever you want to label him, one of the absolute best players in the world. If he were to ever leave in any world, it's not as though you can just go replace him on the free agent market. I think the Leafs understand that, and I think probably most fans do. On the flip side, I think the Leafs believe, and Mitch Marner has said he wants to be a Maple Leaf. And as much as there are lots of appealing places to play around the league and great places to live and other rosters that Mitch could be part of that could win a cup, I mean, I don't think anything could quite replace his hometown team. And so, when both have that, I mean, I think that there's an understanding you can't just go find it somewhere else. You like to think that is, the basis of a negotiation at some point that leads to a deal. But I don't see a whole lot of upside to doing that during the season. I mean, that could change. But I wouldn't be surprised if this just went, let this year play out. I mean, it's obviously not impacting Mitch's play on the ice. He's been great, especially Saturday night. But, even this last little stretch, I mean, he's put up a lot of points with Matthews out of the lineup. And, I just think you let this year play out and deal with it. We'll see if the Leafs change course. But at this point in time, I don't have any sense that there's much cooking there. I think that they've had a healthy ongoing dialogue. I'm sure they know where each other's positions are. Mitch Marner's probably, and his agent, Darren Ferris, are probably listening to these reports too, though. I mean, we don't know what the salary cap's going to do next year. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for everybody, I guess, to wait. And that's kind of the game of chicken that goes on now because, depending on how the season goes, the playoffs go, I mean, one side or the other might benefit from that wait.
What do you make of Jani Hakanpaa and how he's fit in? I mean, he looks like a Sasquatch back there. He's so big. And Benoit has quietly just kind of come out of the lineup. Like, that's a guy that seemed to me for guys, and we had, lengthy discussions last year about the guy had to be in, and he's quietly just kind of become the number 7. But Hakanpaa for me is still, I think it's a work in progress because some shifts he doesn't look up to speed, but you got to give him some. I think you got to give him some games to settle into, back at the National Hockey League level. But he's a monster back there.
Yeah, and the most encouraging thing of all is he just played 2 games in a row, right? I mean, I think the biggest question with him has been his health, and that question hasn't been answered just because he got into a couple of games last week. But it starts to be we'll start to evaluate basically what he is as a player if he can play a stretch of games, and then they have decisions to make. I mean, I really do believe if we reflect on almost the first not quite 20 games here to start this year, the Leafs have been better on the defensive end. I mean, I think the improvements that they felt they made in the offseason so far have proven to be true. And, if Hakanpaa can be a regular member of the lineup, I mean, I think there's huge benefit for him on the penalty kill. You're really looking at him probably as a third pairing defender at 5-on-5, but, you've got depth beyond him because, you have, now a guy like Benoit not playing, but who can step in if they need. Philippe Myers is still around here. They got Matt Benning in the minors. I mean, I just think that they are a deeper group. They're playing Morgan Riley a little less than they have in other years, which I don't see as necessarily demotion for Morgan, but it's just a sign that they have more depth around him. And they're not having to lean on him to the same degree. And so, added together, I like what Hakanpaa brings to the lineup, but, the question still will remain is just, how does his knee hold up? He's even been pretty open about saying like it's never going to be 100%. It's something I think he and the team's medical staff will have to manage. And but he's a pretty attractive player for what he does at the contract the Leafs signed him to, as long as he's healthy.
CJ, people you talk to throughout the game on the executive side, does this ever, like the ticky-tack penalties, guys like sticks falling out of their hands, sticks breaking, just nonsense calls, like, is that going to come to a head? I think there was a penalty the other day, like Stützle, his stick was trailing behind him and bumped another guy's stick and it fell out of his hand.
Yeah,
like there are some nonsense penalties going on. Like, do you ever hear chatter about that?
Oh, you want to get anyone going? The first thing you can bring up, either ask them about what they think of their team's schedule or the referee and the officiating. And it's,
Tara, I'm sorry, some of these penalties are a joke, man.
Well, and this is the problem. And I'm not out here to bash all referees. I think it's easy. It's definitely a source of I guess a little bit of frustration, maybe I'll say. And, it's a hard game to officiate. I don't think anyone would deny that or question that. It's just, you watch a certain game, whether it's a penalty or any of these other ones. And, I think refereeing, no one ever says the referees did a good job tonight. It's almost like you notice when things go wrong. And so I don't know that it will change or come to a head. I mean, that group, they're monitoring everything. There's a lot that goes on there. And I just think ultimately it's one of these jobs. It's almost can't win. Like, I don't know that I'm not making excuses broadly. I mean, we all hated it when sometimes refereeing might interrupt the game, but I just think we're always going to be able to find instances where they miss something or we don't like what they saw.
We talk about it all the time, the parity in the league being watered down. I think the refs are in a cycle right now, too, where you've got a lot of veteran refs that have been cycled out just because of their age and the amount of games. And you've got some young guys that are coming up that are still trying to find their legs at the NHL level. Like, I'm in these buildings all the time, and I see, young ref with veteran ref, and, they're still trying to kind of feel their way through the game. They're all good, but like you said, CJ, they're never in a winning situation. I talk to refs all the time. That's a tough job. But nowadays, with us, with 16 different camera angles, slowing things down, instant replay, I do like the one thing I've noticed this year, and I don't know how you guys feel, if it's a close call, they'll err on the side of caution and go, I'm going to go take a peek at this again because we want to get it right. If it's a high stick or something like that. I've seen a few non-calls where it's like they did get it right.
So I'm talking about the one where the guy has one hand on his stick and he's forechecking in the neutral zone and it just touches another guy's stick and it's slashing.
The Stützle non-goal, that was ridiculous the other night. That was unfortunate. I think it was just a missed call. But, unfortunately, there's missed calls everywhere. There's a penalty in every play. It's how you feel the game. That's the way I look at it. To me, you should be calling a penalty if it's taking away a scoring chance or a goal. Outside of that, let the guys play. I'm more
right.
I'm more trying to liberal when it comes to that way. Let them play and sort it out. I got more of a problem with the goal. I can't define goaltender interference right now.
Nobody can.
I can't.
It's always been that way though. It's a subjective call. They go and review it. And it feels like a coin flip. And that's what you're getting.
There's been a couple this year, though, that really have people's attention. I don't know if you guys saw the Hellebuck one against Tampa a week or two ago.
Yes.
But that one, I know, like, there was teams around the league going, wait a minute, that's the exact opposite of what we thought was precedent. And so that's added a little confusion, a couple calls like that one.
Sure. Yeah, that one was egregious. Like, that was like a pitchfork. And
pushed his right leg into the net and spun him.
That was an ugly one.
And, it was.
But Winnipeg now lost 2 in a row through Florida at bad, and now they got the Panthers at home tomorrow night. Yeah. Like, you got to, I wouldn't say stop the bleeding, but you got to get back on the horse.
Well, their schedule's tough.
It's getting tougher, and they hit the road, I believe, after tomorrow night, like a lot. So, like that, they had such a great start, CJ, yet, it's such a long season that now you've set the bar so high. How do you possibly keep up with that if you're Winnipeg?
I don't think you can. I mean, I think that this is maybe a bit of water finding its level. I don't mean a 5-0 loss, but what were they, 15-1 or 14-1?
Yeah, 15-1.
I mean, that was not a sustainable percentage for any team. I mean, even the 77 Canadians would have had trouble keeping up with that. I mean, but at this point in time, though, I think for them this is a hard stretch of schedule. It's 9 of 10. This is going back a couple of games now that they play on the road. It's all against teams pretty much that are playoff type of teams, and so this is the real sort of test. I don't mean of where they're at. I mean, I think we can safely say they're a good team, but how good? How are they going to be great? I mean, that still needs to be answered with their play, and we're going to learn more about them. Starting with the game that you mentioned, but even the road trip that comes after it.
Absolutely. Wow, they hit Pittsburgh on Friday night, and that just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, every week they're even deeper into the standings, the Penguins.
Well, there's not much more to go down.
No,
at the very bottom right now, or the second last. I haven't looked at today, but
it's not good. To the bottom. It's a mess there, and that's the other thing is, what does Kyle Dubas do to try and dig this out? They traded Lars Eller. That's it. Like, who else is going? Like,
it's like the biggest mystery in the league. It's like, this is a tire fire, but don't talk about it because Sid's there. So it's like you can't.
It's sensitive. It's sensitive.
Yeah, it's honestly the biggest disaster in the league that you can't talk about because it's like, hey, hang on a sec, Malkin's there, Sid's there. Don't talk like that. It's like, okay, it's like, look away.
But Sid has eyes. He's going through it. He's like, I don't know. I watched Mike Sullivan.
He's been saying it for 2 years. Why the hell would he want to stay and play in that mess? They're terrible. They've been terrible for 4 years. It's not
something
that
has to give there. And if Mike Sullivan wasn't so tied into he's a great coach, an unbelievable coach. And if he gets fired there, he'll find another job very quickly. But something has to give there. And for something, he's tied into ownership or something. Like, isn't that the easiest fix? Is like, hey, we're going to bring in a different set of eyes.
Not going to do squat.
Sure, right.
Not going to do squat.
But it's not happening. CJ, like, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I don't have. I mean, it's sensitive, as you mentioned, and it's ugly. Like, it's hard to put a good spin on this. Someone wise once told me the players are always the last to know. Like the really loyal players that have been on a team a long time, they always believe a winning streak's around the corner, or that they're. We just need this to fall into place. And so, I'm curious where it goes over time with those legacy guys like Malkin and Crosby, Letang. They're all signed into next year and beyond, at least in Crosby and Letang's case. I mean, how does it play out with them? Do they want to be strapped to this? Because, they're on the way to a third straight year now without the playoffs. Like, it's just hard to imagine, that that's going to reverse course quickly. And so, whether it's Mike Sullivan or those guys, I don't know how that all sorts itself out. And it's a big job that Kyle's got on his hands down there.
No kidding. Well, we're not going to figure it out right now, but we got a long season to see where it goes. Because, Pittsburgh, they're in a bind, and it's not likely they're going to get out from underneath it. All right, CJ, we'll leave it there. Good stuff, buddy. Thank you for this.
All right. Have a great night, guys.
Chris Johnston joining us here. Go Cowboys. I think he was about to say that. Cut him off. Attaboy, JP.
Go Cowboys.
I think he was about to say
was he
going to
say that? No, we didn't.
Had to.
It's a sore spot.
He had to be saying that. Chris joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, Foreigner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. Yeah, you look at the bottom of the standings. Chicago, San Jose, Montreal, Columbus, Anaheim, like all the teams you knew they'd be there. You knew those teams would be at the bottom of the list. The surprise is Nashville, Detroit a little bit, Pittsburgh to an extent. And then at the top,
I think the biggest surprise for that one is Pittsburgh. And Nashville was a playoff
Nashville,
team.
because they were a playoff team last year and they made so much noise. Nashville, I think, sticks out more than Pitt for me. But
Well, Pitt's tied with. I mean, if you lumped them, Pitt's tied with a bunch of teams. They just have played more.
they've
games.
played 20 games.
Yeah,
They played
that's-
more than anybody.
20 games.
That's
man.
what's kind of stunning.
Yeah.
Is
There's a few teams that have
Yeah.
played 16, but yeah, Pitt's played 20, and it hasn't gone well there. But at some point, like when does something give there?
I don't think it's going to, man.
It's been 3 years where it's like, hang on a sec, we might go on a streak here, and it's crazy to watch, man. It is literally crazy. Kristen Jarry came back up from the minors, and I think he gave up a 6 spot to Columbus the other day.
Yeah, Columbus
He
beat
looked very uncomfortable. It's just the weirdest vibe out there.
Well,
And then it's
something's
like,
not
let's go
right.
get them tomorrow, and they barely beat San Jose. They almost coughed up a lead to San Jose.
yeah, they won in a
Something-
shootout, I believe. it
Something's
was.
not right there. You know what I mean? Like, it
Oh,
just-
yeah,
I don't know
it's-
what it is.
Yeah, it's become stale, and now I think they're also realizing like reality's setting in.
Right.
Reality's setting in for a lot of these guys that it's like, we're not doing this, man. We can't do it anymore. It's not going to happen.
And that's when it gets ugly, when the guys are like, this is game over.
Yeah.
What the hell are we doing?
Because it was routine playoffs there for like 15 years,
Right.
like a long time,
Right.
where it was like automatic. We're the Kings.
For
We know
sure.
who we are. We're going to the playoffs. And now they've missed 2 years in a row. And now it's really ugly. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting closer and closer to that 20-game mark, U.S. Thanksgiving, where you kind of are who you are. What your record says you are, that's kind of who you are. And, the Leafs, again, 5-1 without Matthews, and they're 11-6-2 on the season. It's a really good record. Like, they deserve a ton of credit the way they've been playing. They're defending pretty well. Like, goal scoring has still been at times hit or miss, but they're defending really well. And Stolar's been playing really well.
He's
Yeah,
been
the goaltender plus checking plus the way they're playing, they're having better chances to win in tight games.
yeah.
Where
exactly.
it's in the past, it was like, can we really hang here? And there would always be that collapse in the game. There'd be that 5-minute spurt where they give up breakaways and a 2-on-1. And it would be like, now we got to open it up and do stupid. And that's the way a lot of games would go for them.
the last two games, like Washington game, like it looked to me they had nothing going. And then all of a sudden they get something going. Like
Yeah.
they stuck with it. Like it hasn't, their formula for winning has been a little bit different. But it's like, okay, we're sticking with the game plan, going to wear them down and be opportunistic. That's kind of what I've noticed out of it, whether it's the absence of Matthews or whatever. But you're getting saves, you're getting quality defensive play, and then you're getting some timely plays from the guys
From
who
your
make
best
money.
players.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
like,
guys who make money.
Marner.
Right.
Look at the last two games for Mitch Marner. He scores the tying goal to push it to overtime against Washington.
Right.
And then you see what he did in overtime the other night.
Yep.
Top
players have to
that's what
deliver.
your best players, that's what they have to do. And if you're up against the McDavids and the Dreisaitl's and the Ovechkins and the Stromes, because Strome's in that category right now, the way he's playing. And
Team Canada Strome.
Dylan Strome's an interesting name, where I don't think he skates fast enough to
But
be
John
on that
Tavares does, according to Joe from the Bridge.
team. Yeah, listen, when John was in his prime, John was a very elite player.
He was great,
There's no
and-
disputing that.
But I know, but I'm just saying, like
This guy,
exactly.
Leafs Truth, said, by the way, Tavares is tied for 14th among Canadian forwards in points.
Okay.
He definitely has a solid chance of making the team. He may be a spare, but he has a chance of going.
So
Okay.
does
Thank
Matt
you, Leafs
Duchene, and
Truth.
so does Dylan Strome, and
Well, listen, Strome is in his prime right now, and he's
how about
playing very,
Jared
very
McCann?
well.
Jared McCann's
Jared
got a lot of
McCann's been
points.
very good.
But that's the point. Like that's my thing. Is there's a lot of players that fall into that category. That's my whole thing. It's
Yes.
just and we're
And they're
arguing
lucky
about-
because Canada's so deep. Like
That's
they
why
have
I think
so
they
many
should.
good players.
Canada's pushing to push it back 2 weeks or a month.
Well,
like
they're
have
not
it named
going to.
January 2nd.
It's not going to happen.
ridiculous.
It's not going to happen.
Like
But-
we're going to be when that list comes out, December whatever it is 2nd. We're going to be going, why is that guy on there? Why is this guy on there? And you go, okay, well, it's because they're good players.
No,
that
we're all
haven't
going to
had
be
great
down in
starts.
Studio 6, and they're going to cut to us, CTV News, like, "Here, break it down."
Yeah, that'll be great. Like, here's a name that I think is coming up is Travis Konechny's a name that he's
Very
off
good
to a
player.
really good start.
He's a really good player
Really good player.
on a team that's
Jared McCann, like you said, off to a good start in Seattle.
There's lots, but that's you can choose from lots of good players. It's who you believe is going to be really good in a 2-week span. and have chemistry with the guys that we just mentioned it. Whoever's going to win that tournament, it's not going to be the fourth line guy who delivers. It's going to be your top players who deliver, or the goalie who makes the save at the right time.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel.
Yeah, generally speaking, when you have even teams, and that's what it's going to be. If it's Canada, U.S., they're both stacked.
But I was
They
thinking
both have
about
game breakers.
I was thinking about it today, though. You know, I get so annoyed about it because of best on best, but yet you could argue 4 of the best players on the planet are not going to be in that tournament. Like they're in the top 6, like top 10 in the league.
Kaprizov won't be there.
Well, there's 5 out of 10.
Necas won't be there either.
Yeah, but Draisaitl, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Shesterkin. Who else am I missing? Panarin.
There's a lot, but we already knew they weren't going to be there. There's nothing we can do.
Well,
it's not best on best.
Timmy Stützle won't be there.
Yeah, German.
Draisaitl won't be there. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? The Olympics are coming, and we'll see what happens come the Olympic Games. I don't know who's going to be in it. There's a chance Russia's not in the Olympic Games.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
Which would be ridiculous. But it's more about, to me, having like best on best. These aren't the best on best, but it might be advantageous for those players to get that break.
Well, exactly. I mean, you were saying earlier, Alex Ovechkin always going to have a week off, 10 days off to go do whatever he wants and just relax. Recharge and probably continue to rip home goals.
We got to get into Ovi
because he's been so good.
We got to get into Ovi when we come back.
Okay. Yeah, he had 3 in Vegas last night.
And like one legit 2-on-1 rocket inside the post.
Yeah. Even the hat-trick goal was from the sidewall, but he got it off quick.
Well, his hat-trick goal was an empty net.
The second goal.
Yeah, this one here.
This one.
That's the first goal. He got it off quick, and
that
it gets
one's
a redirect.
not the best.
No, it's not.
That hits Pietrangelo's skate. This is the one I'm talking about. Inside the post.
Jesus.
He had separating speed on but this one he leans in on Theodore. Theodore tries to bully him off. Watch the leg out. Boom.
See
Sorry.
you later. Thanks for
putting
coming.
that in. Like it was.
That was
vintage Ovi last night.
I know, and he's jumping through the glass, and the smile, man. The guy, he's playing like he's 20 years old. He's playing like he's 20 years old. These guys been unbelievable.
For the league.
All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel, still to come as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. Later in the hour, a little same-game parlay for the Monday Nighter tonight. Battle of Texas, Cowboys, Texans. What a ball game. We're going to be subjected to so many Dallas Cowboy games that just nobody wants anymore. Monday Nighter tonight, U.S. Thanksgiving.
Flex. Don't you think they'd flex down the
You
stretch?
have to. The Sunday Nighters you can flex out. And anything that is Cowboy related, you got to get out. But NBC wants them playing because even when they're bad, they still get a big rating.
Yeah, they're big numbers.
I don't know if you flex them, man.
I'm not sure you do either. Like, unless the league steps in and goes, you have to because there's a big playoff implication game. In reality, the ratings, you get more with the Cowboys, but you get so much regardless of who's playing. Kansas City, Buffalo probably did 30 million yesterday.
But those are 2 good teams.
I know that, but
power.
the smallest markets is my point. Buffalo and Kansas City, there's like 1 million people combined.
Well, probably a bit more. Like,
I don't know.
They're
man.
small markets, but they're
Buffalo's
massive.
a couple million.
They're
people.
massive.
Buffalo doesn't have a couple million people.
Are you sure?
No,
Like
it's
surrounded drugs. Buffalo has a couple million.
Buffalo?
I'm
yes, Doogie, look it up. Buffalo.
Toronto has 2 million. Toronto has 2.5.
Like 6 million in the
Probably
like Toronto.
7 million people living in Toronto.
Toronto, like the proper Toronto, like the actual city of Toronto does not have, it has like
Doogie,
2.5
can you tell me how many people live in Buffalo?
You're right. Like
the population of Buffalo is 275,000.
Thank you, dude. Dude, are you sure that sounds like Buffalo, Saskatchewan or something?
No, New York
it
State.
does say, yeah, Buffalo
2023.
275. That's even short by my metrics, and I was
But
Yeah, I think you Googled the
Buffalo
wrong
and
thing.
surrounding area, like
You Googled the
people
wrong
that
thing,
come
Doogie.
to
What's the greater Buffalo area?
Yeah, put that.
There's no way there's more than 1 million people.
GBA. Put the GBA.
The greater Buffalo and Niagara. Now, if you include Niagara Falls, then it starts to get a little bit greasy. But I think I consider Niagara Falls basically a suburb of Buffalo.
1.5 million in the Buffalo Niagara region.
Yeah, see, not even 2 million
Well, I said
in the
2.
region.
I said 2. Didn't I say 2 million?
Yeah, you guys said 2, and I said no chance there's 2. I said less than, there's 200 grand there.
Yeah, but that's downtown. But there's 6 million
There's
people
going to be more
in the
people
GTA,
at the
is there not?
Boston Pizza on Wednesday than there are that live in the greater Buffalo
many people
area.
live
That's
in the
shocking
GTA?
to me. That's shocking.
That's
to me.
what I'm saying. $275,000.
But that's
I get
proper.
it, but
Buffalo
it's
proper.
it's like this massive football market.
I understand that.
You know what I mean?
But it's Buffalo. It's not New York, L.A. It's
Just be
Buffalo.
careful with your Buffalo slant.
This is a straight fact, though. It's a small market. How many people live in Kansas City? I'll bet you less than 600,000.
I think 1 million people.
I'll bet you. I
surrounding
guarantee.
around.
Okay, before you answer that question, I guarantee you the combination of Buffalo and Kansas City's under 1 million. Under 1 million total.
But have we established? Do you think that it's 275,000?
Like the city limits of you drive into Buffalo where it says "Welcome to Buffalo," the home of the Bills. It's 275. Welcome to Kansas
anybody
City.
lives downtown Buffalo. You've been there.
Well, I know there
It's
aren't a
all
lot of people.
boarded up buildings
Yeah.
and stuff. Like I do.
Doogie, give us the number on KC.
Give me the total number, Doogie, KC, and then KC and Buffalo. I'll bet you it's under 1 million.
510,000 in Kansas City.
Not even close to
But
1 million.
do the Kansas and surrounding area, greater area,
Well, it's probably the same thing. 1.5, 1.6.
2 million. That's where the
2.2.
area that comes from
2.2.
everywhere.
2.2 in the
See,
greater
this is
Kansas
the-
City era.
Doogie, you've gone way above and beyond your usual today. Great job.
Atta boy,
hard.
Thanks,
Doogie.
boys.
Way
But
to
this,
say
Good
it.
math
remember when we
work,
talked
Doogie.
about
Good
Salt Lake
Googling,
City?
Doogie.
We talked about Salt Lake City
Yes.
and the Utah Hockey Club. And you're like, okay, there's a couple 100,000 people in Salt Lake. How are they going to do it? You're talking to people there, and it's like, okay, they can draw off a 2 million in a 30-minute radius
I
around
understand.
it.
I understand that.
So that's why Buffalo has 1.5 million in a radius, probably within an hour to get to a game.
Sure.
Right.
And same thing with Kansas City.
But here in Toronto, I think isn't it like 6 million in the
Yeah,
GTA?
in the greater Toronto area, you're talking 6 million
Because
plus.
I don't live in Toronto, and neither do you, technically. But we say we live in Toronto.
If you include Hamilton, Southern Ontario is 8 or 9 million.
Right.
Like basically a quarter of the country
Yeah.
lives within 2 hours of the CN Tower.
Right. I live technically 45 minutes or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, it just depends on what you call it. But 275,000.
275 in Buffalo
I think that's
is
thin.
wild, man.
I think that's
That's why
thin
that
because
stadium's not downtown. No one's down there.
nobody's there. Like we go to a
You go to the Sabres game, it's wild.
yeah.
Like you stay downtown because
You'd
I've done that
think
before.
There's 50 million people in Buffalo if you go to a game.
Yeah, well, of course, because they're great sports fans. Like
They come from
support-
everywhere though. Like
Yeah,
that's
of course.
what it is.
Like Western New York in general, people travel. It's like the prairies. Like the American prairies is like Western New York.
See,
People be driving in from all over the place.
that's the thing. Like if you have season tickets to the Bills, it's not just people that are in Buffalo proper. There's probably people that are driving in for 3 hours.
Oh yeah, well, Southern Ontario, I'm pretty sure like Ontario accounts for like 25% of season
I think
tickets.
you stepped outside your comfort zone with the Prairies comment. You don't know anything about the Prairies.
I don't know anything.
I
about
grew
the
up in the prairies.
I know nothing, but I
I grew
know
up in the
people.
What do
take,
you mean? This is what you said. People travel in the Prairies.
Because people take pride. Yeah, this is one thing I do know, and I understand. I'm a Toronto kid that doesn't know anything about the
People
prairies.
travel in the Prairies.
They
you
do.
said.
Do you
I
wanna hear
had
the
to
truth?
call you out.
I've never been to the prairies.
No, I know.
I don't know the
You've never
prairies
been
at
to
all.
Regina or
I've never.
He did not know if a Regina or any kind of
But
prairie
I've
person
spoken
travel.
with many people from the prairies, and they can't wait to tell you that they drove 7 hours for a Pee-wee hockey game.
yeah.
Can't wait to tell you, oh, yeah, we were playing in Kelvington the other night. Drove
Yeah.
4 hours for that game. They love driving.
That's Bobby McMahon. I guarantee you that guy's put on miles to go to a game.
Yes.
The Saskatchewan
That's my point.
Rough Riders, like they travel well. Their fans are
They
like
get
Leaf fans.
all
They
over the
come from
province.
everywhere in that province.
And it's a one-off. You play 9 games.
I've got a buddy who lives in Edmonton. He has Seattle Seahawks season tickets.
That's crazy.
He flies in there.
See,
every
flying,
week.
then you got to have money and stuff. But like, there'd be people that would drive. Like when the Leafs are playing in, let's say Winnipeg, there'd be Leaf fans driving in from Saskatchewan. Like a lot
Or
of
from
Thunder Bay,
Dryden, Ontario, which is 4.5 hours.
You're an
away.
NFL fan and you live a comfortable life. You could go watch every single game of the season.
Yeah.
There's 16 games.
Well, they travel a ton. I mean, that's why you go to a place like Vegas when your team's playing the Raiders. It is
Right.
loaded. L.A.,
Yeah.
Nashville.
There's Buffalo Bills fans that live in Los Angeles that probably go to the 8 home games every year.
That possibly, yeah.
Probably.
Exactly. You're like, I'm going to fly up for the game or go to 4
Red Eye
of them.
home and gone.
Go to 4 of them, and you're still like, yeah, I got to bang for my buck. You know?
I agree.
Like, that's why you get a big game in the NFL that's like a weekly buildup. It's wild, man.
But
Like-
you can plan around. You can plan your life around those games because they're nice and spaced
It's
out.
so good. I remember I was in Nashville years ago, and the Steelers were playing the Titans on Monday night. And we got in, I think, on a Thursday. And there must have been 5,000 Steeler fans on the Thursday that were just there
You
like
barely made the game
all week. And I kept talking to them on Saturday. I'm like, you guys are going to the game? They're like, I have no idea how we're getting to the game.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get through 2 more nights of Nashville before we tailgate and go to the
Yeah.
game.
Crazy ass stuff.
Yeah, like there
Not
were
good.
some grizzled vets where like Pittsburgh gear.
I think I'm at the age where it's fly in same day and fly out that day if I can.
Yeah, I couldn't do 3 days like in Nashville leading up to a game like that.
No, you
There's
barely
just
crawl out of there.
No way you could do that.
Because you can't take a night off. And if you take a night off, then you're, what do you, like, it's a waste of time. Like, to me, 3 nights and then the game, that's 4. That's
Too much,
tough, man.
Too much.
That's tough.
Dave tweeting in saying that Prairie people love to travel, and they'll drive down to Minnesota for Viking games.
That's fair.
When the Jays are playing the
For sure.
Twins, tons
sure.
of tons of Jays fans from like Dauphin, Manitoba.
Hey, you took a swing and you hit. You got.
I think I hit on that one. I think
Prairie
you did.
people
Western
love
New
to
York
travel.
Prairie
it's the
people do
prairies of the
travel well.
U.S.
Yeah, because they get in their truck and they go. Like,
Western New York is the prairie of the states.
Doogie, get some T-shirts and hats made up.
Hit it, Doogie.
no, it's Wyoming, and those are the prairies, like Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Yeah, those places. You
They're
get a
gritty.
Dakota in there, they can travel.
Like,
Minnesota, though, man. Like I was talking about it today, this Kaprizov and how good he's playing, and his deal's up.
Oof.
And that Minnesota team is not known for superstars and not
They were known
well,
for
they got-
2, and they're gone.
but they
Parise
got-
and Suter, they overpaid to get them, and those guys, they were from Minnesota.
yeah, they're
Like, what is Kaprizov going to demand to stay there? Guy ends up with 115 points and a Hart Trophy. He might save 14 sheets.
yeah.
And how do you
Right.
say no when you consider what he represents and how they don't have the star power generally in Minnesota?
You got to keep him. That's the one thing you got to keep him because he is a piece that you build around. That Boldy kid's nice. Faber's nice. Like
They get good
they
kids.
got
They're-
the
That's
goalie.
one kid
Rossi's
who's
a
got
good
a
young
lot.
player.
Like if he continues and is up for the Hart and has the season that he's having, he holds the keys, and they're just going to say, "Look, what's the number?"
That's it. Like Bill Guerin's going to have to. It might be blank check territory.
Well, he'll be worth it. Like he's
No, I hear you.
a star
But
player. Like
we're talking about Marner here. Marner's going to make more money than he made his last deal.
yeah.
Just end of discussion. Whatever happens, wherever it's going to be, Toronto or elsewhere, he's making more than that. He's going to make, I think, probably more than $12 million, more than likely. Kaprizov will demand the same thing, if not
Yeah.
more.
Rantanen.
Yeah,
Like
Rantanen
nobody's
for
talking
sure.
about Rantanen's deal.
But like they're all kind. The thing is, Kaprizov's different because he's the man in Minnesota.
Right.
Like Rantanen's not the man in Colorado. He's a brilliant player.
He's the 3-hole.
He's third best player.
Right.
Like Marner, you could argue Marner's the third best player on this team. Like Matthews is the clear cut number 1. I think Willie's right there with Mitch.
Yeah. Different players. But yeah,
different
right.
players. But the point is, one guy may say I like
You could
this,
argue-
one
yeah,
guy
you
could say
argue
that.
against him.
But it's just like Kaprizov's like Boldy's good. He's not me,
Yeah. No, you're right.
Like, I'm the
Kaprizov's
man.
That guy.
and you got to pay me. There it is. FanDuel plus 300, 3-1 odds. Kaprizov winning the Hart. Wow.
Oh.
Those are good odds. All right, best bets brought to you by FanDuel coming up on the Monday Nighter Same Game Parlay. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a Same Game Parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm going to lay the points. Houston minus 7.5. I know it's a big number. I know it's a big number. And Al's brother's in the group chat right now. Will Anderson's not playing. Lassiter's not playing. That's a pretty significant pass rush that is being hit by Houston and injuries coming out of the lineup. But I like Houston tonight. CeeDee Lamb, anytime touchdown, he's just too good. And you're getting good odds, and I understand why, because Cooper Rush and the offense has been so bad, but he's going to get open. He's too good. Rush will throw a ball up. I think Lamb brings one down. C.J. Stroud, 200-plus yards passing tonight. That paying plus 925. That's a big, big number on a same-game parlay. And today's best bets powered by FanDuel. FanDuel is the home of popular parlays this NFL season. Please play responsibly, 18 plus, physically located in Ontario. All right, Leafs back in action on Wednesday. Raptors, Pacers tonight. Pacers are, last time I checked, 3.5-point favorites. Like, I don't know if the Raptors will be a favorite all year.
No, they won't.
They might be an underdog all season.
The whole year? That might be a bet.
That's a good Jerry.
They were just an underdog to Detroit, dude. That's your tell right there.
And they didn't cover.
But they lost, right? Yeah.
That's how crazy it was. It got bet up to 3.5. They lost by 4.
Oh.
Like, you're a dog at home to Detroit and you don't cover. That is a kick.
That's tough.
In the you-know-what.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see what comes of it. Monday night are Raptors tonight. Argos, lots of celebration
Congrats.
in the city tomorrow. Shout out to the Argos. Awesome Grey Cup. Awesome season, man. They had a lot of things they had to overcome.
Shout out to all our colleagues, too, that cover the
Great
CFL
job.
all
Unbelievable.
year.
Every single year. Every year. Next year it'll be in Winnipeg. It'll be awesome there, too. All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. Radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
Everyone in the prairies, you keep on trucking and keep
driving.
on traveling. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.